Right, weekend 4. If you remember, we glued all this together. It all seems to have done really quite well. Not quite sure about the plumbing adhesive though, but all the others have stuck down quite nicely by the look of it. It hasn't melted any of the plastic. Yeah, adjustment needed. I'm sure it'll be alright. It does mean I don't have to get a new bonnet, of course, because there is definitely something there. Maybe I can live with that. You can cover it with a bit of vinyl or something. These marks just from the clamps I put on, no polish out, so they were just rubber. Maybe, don't know. Right, so far I've not released any videos, but I already know what the main comment's going to be. Number 1, can't hear what you're saying. So I've got some nice little microphones. This one looks like Don King. You don't have to have the haircut like that. You can take his wig off, so that's nice. So now you can hear all the shit I'm saying. Secondly, there's only one camera angle. Guess what? Sweet. Thirdly, what have you done to your legs? Well, I tend to wear these Wi-Fi shin guards. Not particularly good, to be honest. So I tend to smash my legs and everything. Just part of the job, I suppose. Now I've also got the old head cam, but I'm not sure if I trust it or not. Plus it makes me look a right idiot. I gave it a little go earlier. If there's some wobbly video in there somewhere, then you know it works. If it doesn't, then it's a piece of shit. But I do feel a bit like something from the Borg. Plus this is an Aldro ED8, I think it is. The software is absolute dog shit. So there's got to be something better than this. I mean, some of the nonsense you have to go through to record yourself. I've got my iPhone on a tripod, but then I can't see if I'm in shot or not, unless I've taken a video and checked myself later on. So now behind it, I've got my iPad with the screen facing towards me, filming the back of my camera, so that I can see myself in my own camera. It's fucking ridiculous. So, does this look like an impressed person? Not. Now last week, I said on Monday, the 3 airbags, the airbag controller, and the seat belts were going to turn up, and that was Monday because the guy sent them on Friday with FedEx. Now either the guys sold them to me as a liar, or FedEx is a fucking bullshitting bunch of pricks, because on the tracking app it said Monday before 6 o'clock. Monday came, went, nothing. Tuesday, the app just went sort of dark, didn't really tell me anything about it. Wednesday, still the same. Sent an email to FedEx and the guy. FedEx said, oh yeah, well, we can't deliver it until it's been picked up. The guy hasn't arranged collection yet. What the fuck? So I contacted him and he said, yeah, no, yeah, the FedEx has definitely picked it up, yeah. What I'll do, I'll give you a refund. Now that sounds more like he realised that they're worth more than 150 quid, just screwed me for the parts and sold them on. I don't really know. But it does mean I've not really got much to do this weekend. But luckily enough, you can see my shady setup now. There's me. Off. Some Inception shit right there. Right. New company, ProBite. They started making discs, as far as I can tell, early this year. And they supply the BRC, so they obviously know what they're talking about. So I contacted them, and they do the full range for smart. Well, obviously it says Renault because it's for a 453, but yeah, so I spoke to them, and they're really nice people. They're English company. So we've decided to start stocking these in smart mods because they're really nicely made. Yeah, nicely machined. So I think today we're going to be fitting these. Yeah, these are the vented ones. Now these are fitted to all 453s, or 4.4. All the EQs, electric drives, and the turbo version of the 4.2. Now if you've got a non-turbo version of the 4.2, the discs will be single thickness. Currently they don't do those, but they said they could if we're interested, so you let us know. I mean, ideally you should just not be driving a non-turbo 453, so it's a gutless piece of shit, but that's up to you. And really, you don't really need upgraded brakes on those because they barely go forwards, they have to stop. So enough of slagging that piece of shit off. Let's get these fitted. Right, first thing to do, crack your nuts. Well, 17mm on your wheel bolts, just give them a little eighth of a turn just to loosen them. It's not going to go anywhere. So otherwise, if you lift the car up and then try to spin those, the whole wheel just spins around and you don't get anywhere. So now we need to go and get Right, we're lifted off the ground. We now remove the bolts fully. Now the 453 have got a conical taper, so it's a cone on the back of the bolt head. On all previous smarts except for the 454 had a radius seat. You can't use these on the others. You can't use the 450 and 451 on these because that has to match up with the inside hole of the alloy wheel. And if you do try it, it will seem like it's on okay, but then over time it will just slightly wear it and then everything will become loose. Right, there's your standard brake disc. Now the problem with the EQ model is obviously because you've got the electric regen, you don't tend to use the brakes as often. And it doesn't take long for when the car's just sitting around for the face just to rust up slightly. And as soon as you start pulling away without the brakes on, you can hear it grinding against the pads. It just sounds like shit. But with the new ProBite discs, they've got coating on, which stops the rust forming. So your car's not going to sound like a bag of shit every time you pull away. So now we need to remove the disc, but to remove the disc, we'll have to pop the caliper out of the way. And on the back of this, I'm not quite sure what flavour we got. It's not that. It's not 16. Is it the same 17 as the wheel bolts? No. So to make it easy for everyone, it's 18mm. Now, also going to need a smaller Jesus. Yeah, so you're going to need a short ratchet and then 18, just be able to get behind there. Make sure it's undoing, yeah. Yeah, it's only a small bolt. It's actually quite a fine thread on it. It was done up really quite tight, so when you put it back on, make sure you do it up really quite tight. It just takes a long time because it's got a very narrow thread, very fine thread. You don't really have a great deal of room to swing the ratchet. You know, there's a good possibility you might have a bit of room on the lower one. Let's get one of these on there. Jesus Christ, that's fucking loud. God, that is tight. I'm going to put the top one in again slightly, just so it doesn't spin as I try and undo it. Now these are clearly put in with some sort of thread lock, because ideally what you don't want is your brakes just popping off as you're driving. Oh, fucking hell. I think what we need to do is try something else. Because the 453 can steer quite a lot, I suppose you've got a bit more room for long handles. More handle means, oh yeah, more torque. I mean, these aren't seized on and rusted in any way, because it's only a 2-year-old car and it's only done about 8,000 miles. You know, it's not been hanging around in any ditches or anything, so it's just done up tightly with what seems to be some sort of thread locking fluid on it. I certainly don't remember it being that hard to get the ones out my old ones. Right, once they're off, the caliper will probably be binding to the disc, because where the pad sits, it sits just in slightly, so there's going to be a slight lip. So the pad's going to be actually clamped around that lip. So you need to give it a little bit of backs and forwards, and it should come out. Now what you don't want to do is to hang the caliper off the brake pipes. I mean, for a while it won't, but just don't do it anyway. So the best thing to do is to just make some sort of hanger of some sort. So let's just see what I can find. for the want of finding something reusable, I shall use a zip tie instead. Right, so that's that out of the way. All looks okay out there. Right, now what you've got, on the previous models, there was only one of these. It's a countersunk screw. On the Renault models, 453s, you've got two. That looks to be T30. Let me just double check this. Forget that. T40. And we've got to find something suitable. I don't seem to have a T40 that I can use on an impact gun. I've got a T40 standard Torx bit. There's a very good chance that you're not going to be able to do these by hand. Oh no, it's all right. Oh, it's fine. But if you do have problems, you can ram a screwdriver in there, just give it a bit more leverage. Because most of the time, you try and do that and the whole disc will just spin around with it. Leverage is your friend. There you go, just a standard, well, not so standard, but countersunk Torx 40, 8.8. Now there's nothing stopping this disc from coming off, except for it just being not fresh out the factory. What normally happens is you get a build-up of rust just on the inside here, and it's amazing how strong that rust bond can be. So what we need to do is get a little persuader. Now, since we're replacing them, you can use a metal persuader if you want, but I've got a nice little rubber persuader. There you go. Now, as you can see, you get a bit of rust build up. These are designed to be an exact tolerance on those, so any rust will just hold it on. When you try and get the rear drums off, man, that is an absolute ball ache. I was there for a good half hour with penetrating oil and heat, smashing the granny out of it. Eventually it came off, but there's a lot of messing around. So ideally, once you've got it off, you do yourself a favour. Let's have that one. And give the bearing face a good clean. I'm using a wire brush, but you can use sandpaper if you really want to. You don't really have to do much to get it off. It's not strong once the bond's been broken. That's fine. Let's have the correct one. Make sure it doesn't bind. That's perfect. Now we need to do something that Smart don't, because they're lazy. I'm trying to save 3p. Bit of copper grease. Just around the inside bore, and that will stop the rust from holding the discs on. Should you wish to change the discs again in the future. Now, you've obviously got the 4 bolt holes and the 2 set screw holes. You need to line those up. Now if you've got one of those, the non-turbo version of this, the 4.2, 453 obviously, and you've got this single thickness discs, also called solid discs. You can fit these, but then you have to fit different calipers. Now these calipers, I did the conversion on a non-turbo 453 before, and the calipers are from Renault Clio Mark III. So literally, you just unbolt your old narrow calipers, bolt on the new Renault Clio Mark III calipers, your double thickness vented discs, and it all fits and works. Right, so let's just tighten these up. You don't have to go all Hulk Superman on them. They're literally they're just to hold it all in place.
That one's straight. Yep.
Right, depending on how much your disc was worn, there's a good chance that these will be too narrow. So you really need to take these pads out and push the piston back. When you do push the piston back, take the cap off of the brake fluid reservoir to give the fluid a bit of place to move to. Otherwise you create a bit of pressure in there and then you're just fighting against pressure. It's just a pain. So to get these off, you have to get your elbow in the way of the camera. You just have to pull these clips back, and what I need, you need to, Renault, whoever designed these, go fuck yourself. These are shit. Once you've got that Jesus clip out, you move that forward and take those out. Now, these are the standard pads, DC, but as you can see, they've plenty of thickness still on them. They're not damaged, as they shouldn't be really. They're fairly new. Right, I've opened the brake fluid reservoir. Now these, the piston side of the brake pad, it's got like a little claw clip that actually goes inside the piston. So getting them out is a bit of a pain. It just pushes inside the hollow piston and holds it all in place. Now, if you've got something like that, that's actually going to sit inside the piston, so you're probably not going to get enough length on it. Maybe you could, but you quite happily push against that pad. So let's push that back in. Come on. That's better. And you just screw that in and it pushes the piston back. Once it's pretty much in line, it's maybe proud of the edge of this caliper by about 1 mil with new pads. Move the temporary clamp. Off them over. Make sure they're all clean. Now don't put any copper grease on these. And if you're asking why, you really shouldn't be working on your car. Okay, they're in place. It's looking good. We need to tighten these up at the back. You can put a thread lock on these bolts again if you want. Generally I don't, just make sure they're tight. I'll off the top of my head, I don't know what the torque is, but here it is. I'll just do them FT. That's good. These are still obviously floating because you need to pump the brakes to, because these are auto setting. What it does, it floats between, this part is stationary and this part floats. And these are the two parts to hold the brake pads. And the way the master cylinder is set up, when you press the brakes, they'll clamp. And as soon as you let go, it pushes a little bit back into the system, just to unclamp it slightly. So currently, floppy. But once you've put that on and pump the brakes, it's all good. And again, whoever thought these were a good idea needs to be kneed in the balls. Okay. I just need to pump the brakes. There we go, all nice and tight. The pads will float. I say float, they generally just about slightly catch, hence the noise, but there's no binding. They rotate fine. So that's that done. So what I need to do is replace the wheel. Might be easy to work on around the back of that when you've got them at an angle, but when you're putting the wheel back on, it helps if they're straight. Now again, wheel bolts. Do not put copper grease or any other type of grease on the threads of your wheel bolts. Now these are supposed to be torqued to a set point. Now if you put copper grease on the thread, it allows the bolt to be put in with less friction, which means if you use a torque wrench, you're actually putting too much torque through it. Now if you put too much torque through it, it'll stretch it, pull the threads out. It may seem strong, but at some point it will pull the threads out and then your wheel fucks off over there somewhere, your car fucks off over there somewhere, you fuck off through the windscreen. It's no fun at all. So just don't put copper grease or any other type of grease on your wheel bolts. They're not designed for it. And once you've got them in hand tight, and obviously you won't be able to tighten them up properly because the wheel will just spin like that. But that is enough. That is rock solid. So you then lower the car back down, at which point you can tighten these properly without the car moving. Now I've got this set to 112 Newton meters. It's generally what I do my alloy wheels to, but I know it's a different reading between each car, so as I don't know, here is the correct readings. Now with the previous models there's only 3, so you couldn't do it in a star pattern, but as we've got 4, you do 1, make sure it's okay, and go across and do the opposite side. Now it doesn't matter which one you do from there, but do the opposite side. Now don't ever just go around once, go around at least 2 or 3 times, because you don't know that doing one up hasn't released a bit of pressure on the other side. So do it all a couple of times and then you know that's fine. So there we go. Some nice they suit the car really nicely. Unusual hook designs, nice and black to match everything else. Black will stop any rust building up. And it certainly matches the rest of the black car. I know that's seems to have taken a little while. It's actually a fairly easy job. Just I spent a lot of time pissing around talking to you lot. So you sod off, I'm going to do the other side. Now if you haven't got an old wire coat hanger that you can bend into a hook, if you actually take the spring off the caliper, no fucking around. Now it's worth interjecting and pointing out that if you're fitting replacement discs that aren't these superior ones that we're seeing over on smartmods.co.uk, if you're fitting any other types of discs, they won't be black. So what they'll be is like a raw metal that will rust. Now to stop them rusting during manufacture and then the sending, what they'll do, they put on a spray coating of oil or like some sort of lacquer. Now before you start braking on them, you have to clean it off. So you'll need to get a brake cleaner and give them a good clean, both sides, before you use them. But if you're using the decent ProBite discs that we'll be selling, you don't need to bother because they've already been coated to stop them rusting. So you don't need to mess around, just fit them and off you go. Right, all this clip does is this bit that floats, this bit is stationary. This clip just holds this stationary bit down on there to stop the pads from moving around. And it's a bit of a ball ache to fit. The easiest way is to, if you angle it and put the bottom one in and then push it over. Now it needs to be fitted in 4 places, so you've got that one there, these 2 places and that one. So now when you've got these 3 in place, what you need to do is then force this one over. Now if you pull this centre part that way and then push, like I say, whoever designed these, absolute arsehole. Because the problem is, if you do something nice for your car, there you go, and you paint these, as soon as you try and fit that clip, it scratches underneath there. It looks like shit. So if you do paint them, be prepared to touch up the paint underneath there. So yeah, all you have to do is just pull that in and force that down. It can be done by hand. You can get a bit caveman on it with a little rubber hammer if you really wanted to. Bit unnecessary though. Another thing that's worth considering is obviously where the wheel attaches to this mating face, there are sections of the alloy wheel that actually touch against the brake disc. Now, it's fairly common to be able to remove all the bolts and then have to kick the shit out the wheel to get the rust to break from that to that. Now, really, you shouldn't really be getting the rust, but you'll still be getting rust on the inside here, on the centre ball. So it is a good idea to also place, if you haven't already, a little bit of the copper grease on there. Again, if you're not using these decent discs, it's a good idea to actually put copper grease on this mating face as well. Keep well clear of the bolts holes. You do not want copper grease on your bolts, because all this extra face here is touching your cheap brake discs, and if you notice here, even on the inside here, you're getting rust. Now it's amazing how strong rust actually is. So yeah, so if you're not using coated discs like this, you're using your standard metal discs, then it's a very good idea to place a little bit of copper grease just between the bolt holes and around the inside edge of the centre ball. So next time you don't have to kick the crap out of your tyres or your wheels to get them off. Right, when you put a front panel on, you may think it's just these and this bit here, that bit there, but there's a little secret bit on the 4.2 in there. Those. Now hook those two on there. Clear the pipes. Dip it down underneath the headlight and over the top of that. Get in there. Now, where did they go? Assumptions are being made. I'm just guessing where these are going, by the way. Hang on. Sweet. Can't do that this side though, because it's missing. Good enough. In the previous video I was saying about the GPS antenna. I didn't know where it went. Now once all this is now put in, that looks like it goes there, and then there's a funny little thing there, so I'm assuming that's where the original GPS antenna went. It must have sat in there and had a little clamp over the top of it, but oh, I've done that now. I just have to lose all that, that's fine. Yeah, it's looking sweet. It's been a bit of a disappointing weekend really. I was hoping for the airbags to turn up, but they didn't. Nothing else turned up that I was waiting for. So until I can get some airbags, there's really nothing else I can do. Apart from maybe try and code the headlights. I've been messing around today fitting dash cams to different cars. That certainly wasn't worth documenting, so I didn't bother. Maybe next week I'll have more to play with. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Since a whole bunch of fuck all happened over this weekend, I would show you some shit. I've got about £3 billion worth of Evolution cable ties because I thought I was running out. And then found another 3 billion brandy cable ties. Oh, well, never mind. Right, let me show you what I've been looking into. Now, obviously, if you've got 453 with the touchscreen, you'll recognise that. Standard Renault R-Link number 1. It's pretty shit, not much you can do about that. Now, what about if we can fit a different R-Link from a different car, like this one from a Renault Capture? Now, it's actually, if you look, it looks exactly the same from the outside. That's the original one, and that's the new one, so very different. And it just goes in the back of that. But it also fits quite nicely into the standard smart surround if you put it around the right way. Exactly the same holes and everything. Now, that's the old one. Right, very similar. That's the standard R-Link 1. This is the R-Link 2. Now it's worth noting that R-Link 2 has got Apple CarPlay. Now if we look at these connections, there's quite a lot on there, but if we compare them to other, that's the same as the R-Link 1. That's the same as R-Link 1. This connector here is a connector on the back of the old touchscreen. Obviously those 3 connectors are the same as that. You've got the same GPS antenna. One will be for DAB radio, something else, not quite sure what. Now the only thing that's holding me up is, I mean, this is the standard R-Link 1, that's R-Link 2. So obviously you've got the volume button on, off and a home, but on this one you've got, you know, volume up and down and mute. But on the Renault Capture you've got something else, lane assist and self park, some shit like that. And it sort of fits. You have to I did mess around with one of these. Where is it? That one there. Yeah, literally all I had to do was just grind that hole out very, very slightly, and that goes in there nicely. So that is literally R-Link 2, which has Apple CarPlay. Plus you can route it. They found out how to route it so you can actually get Android access and that sort of stuff. Now the only issue I've got is that connector. I believe, if I can get this thing out, that connects to that, because they're the same. So if I can just find a cable, that goes there. And it's worth noting that these funny connections on the R-Link 1 and 2, all those, and these coloured ones, they might look confusing, but if you look inside them, they are just the old mini USBs that you can't really get anymore. So yeah, it shouldn't be too hard to at least wire it up, assuming that the power and that sort of stuff's the same. It shouldn't be too hard getting it going. At the moment I haven't got time to do it, but all of that cost me less than 150 quid, so you can't really complain. 3D printers, used very, very rarely. Over there we've got a massive laser cutting machine, never used. There's a CNC machine at the back there, that's been replaced with this CNC machine that's in the box here, that's been in the box for about a year and a half. A nice pair of MB Star machines. They both work. There's a broken one around here somewhere, I might have binned it, but it was messing around, so it got the boot. And the problem is that whenever I do a project, as soon as I finish I put it to one side and it just sort of stacks up. And these were the I was testing different headlights for the Smart Roadster. These ones with the larger aperture, they were putting out a lot more light using exactly the same bulbs. So they were good, but I seem to have got quite a few of those laying around just in case. Fluid corner. More fluid corner. A bit where I sit and ponder and do very little. And strangely, when I actually received this car, oh yeah, and I've got a pump truck, because everyone needs a pump truck, especially when my driveway is 100 metres long. Yeah, strangely, they've taken all of the bolts out of the engine cover. They were nowhere to be seen. I'm sure I've got some spares laying around somewhere. It'd be nice to get this one up and running so I can get one of the other cars in there, so I can play with other things. Yeah, well, fuck it, I'm just going to go and get some dinner, I think. So, catch you later. Now, can you guess where I'm going? It's the best place, proper S rank place to eat. But no, it's not the Harvester. TGI motherfuckers! And that's my car as well. That's interesting. See you later, motherfuckers!